Greetings, Howard Harris from the Chinese Drywall Screening. We're at a property to do a PRV inspection, which is a post-remediation verification. Look for dust and odor after the remediation of Chinese drywall. This particular case, as you can see, they left the ceilings in and just took out all the walls. We did an XRF inspection ahead of time to determine that they decided that they wanted to kind of do a selective per se by leaving the ceilings in, but take all the walls out. So we verified ahead of time, and then we also verified at this stage that any drywall left behind was either moisture resistant board, den shield, 5/8 drywall, or domestic drywall. Some of the issues, we did encounter several issues. One is the bat insulation needs to be removed because it traps the dust. In general, the cleaning was okay downstairs. However, there was dust on the framing and several areas. You can see on top of the box there, and the electric boxes are some of the more sensitive areas. It is a 3-story condominium. Here you can see it's wrapped in domestic board, 5/8 domestic board, and everything was verified not to be Chinese. Some stored items are in place, and as you can see, that in general it's fairly okay. They attempted to clean a lot of the corrosion off the copper, left all the ductwork, the electrical, most of security, almost everything is in place. So it's very minimal, kind of the minimum remediation possible. But some of the problematic areas are inside above the ceiling. There's a lot of I don't know if you can see in there, but there's a lot of debris inside. Some issues there, but there's also some trapped Chinese drywall. And this is some of the key areas that Chinese drywall can get trapped. Oops, I lost my light. All right, back up again. So you can see behind the banister railing, that's Chinese right there. And he chose to leave it in there. He wants to seal it in place. So we're just documenting that. I don't agree with that philosophy. You can see some of the debris. That's unacceptable. That needs to be all cleaned out of there. It did a fairly decent job. This is one of the problem areas that can be trapped for Chinese drywall, is the side down here. So that's he did a fairly decent job there. The AC system was still intact. As you can see, the corroded coils there. This area up here was verified not to be Chinese. Same with the underneath the stairwell here and the ceilings. As you can see, he removed all the wall board. And then this has gypcrete, and here's an area you can see this is trapped by the stairway and the gypcrete itself. And there were several areas that the gypcrete, it kind of has to be chiseled out. Like here's an example of some Chinese drywall that was trapped by the gypcrete. And we're on the second floor. Here's another common area that can be missed. There's some drywall that just wasn't removed, trapped by the gypcrete. Bunch of debris, the corners there and the studs, that's a common area. But underneath the tub, if you look at in there, where you can see a lot of the debris that fell down from above when they were taking it out. And that happens a lot when you're taking a drywall out above. And this drywall here was verified to be the moisture resistant board. But when you have Chinese above moisture resistant, it can fall back behind and get trapped. And so if you can't get it out, then you have to remove the moisture resistant board. And this situation here is a good example of when we can leave it in, because it's all tile. You save a lot of money by keeping the shower enclosure, and you can verify around the edges and look for markings, or with XRF testing that it's indeed not Chinese or corrosive. Here's another example of an area that was missed, kind of trapped in there. And here as well, it's trapped with the gypcrete, the floor coating. And going back up to the third floor, again, fairly decent job getting between the stair and the wall there. But a lot of Chinese drywall remains, you can see there's 2 layers trapped in here, and there's a lot of actual corrosive drywall that remains in there. And the same issue up in here. There's a lot of debris up in the above the ceiling there. And then here, all the ductwork. One of the issues here is that the register and diffusers were not closed during demo. That obviously creates an issue with the duct system, because now you have gypsum, Chinese corrosive gypsum dust in the duct system. It did cover all the sprinkler heads. Did miss one above the water heater, and you can see how corroded the copper is on the head. We did verify that all the drywall around this shower and tub area is not Chinese, but he did miss. This is a common spot between the door frame. You get some chunks of Chinese in there. We use XRF testing just to verify. I mean, obviously you're not supposed to have any gypsum chunks and debris, but we did verify that it was indeed Chinese, just to kind of make a point. All the low voltage and all the wiring was remaining in place. Some more issues with underneath the tub, common area that's missed. Markings or XRF testing verified any of that drywall was good. A lot of areas where there's dust on top. You could see in there the steel wool shavings from scrubbing the copper. But that's unacceptable. Those need to be perfectly clean. A lot of the white in there and these boxes it's overspray. You can tell it's overspray. It doesn't come off. But if it's chunky, the overspray could trap drywall dust and debris that was from the original installation. So we look for making sure there's no heavy texture, no trapped chunks and debris. And then the stored items, there's dust on them. They do need to be cleaned. It should be in a containment area. Shouldn't be up here, and it should be covered. The problem with the odor check, everything was opened up. Then everything in place needs to be closed up before the odor check. But with this much Chinese in here, we'd obviously be smelling the Chinese drywall. You can see none of the Romex was wiped down. It still has dust on it. That's a big one, especially for residual off-gassing. That will continue to create problems even after all the dust and everything's wiped down. For some reason, these always tend to get missed. There's always dust and debris lingering in these. These all need to be wiped out clean. You can see this needs to be cleaned. It hasn't been cleaned thoroughly. So this is obviously a failed inspection. A lot of work remains. This is more of a general cleaning. I wouldn't call this a micro cleaning. A lot of deficiencies with this inspection. And then which creates even a bigger problem. So when you do selective, which I would somewhat consider this selective, just because you're leaving in the wet areas and you're leaving in the ceilings, which can be okay if it's done right. There's a lot of nuances with that, a lot of pros and cons, and this is absolutely one way of how not to do it.